Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Here's a heartwarming story about a retail worker's unexpected journey into the world of charades with a delightful customer. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. Sir, can I help you? Oh my. This is a story about Sir. In college, I worked in a large retail store part-time during the year and full-time during the summer. My second summer on the job, I'd been sort of promoted to second in charge within the domestics department. All day, every day, I'd maintain the aisles and back room and stock shelves. One day, I'm refolding a wall of towels that I'd watched get systematically destroyed by a family redecorating their bathroom. I'm slightly grumps because we have all of the towels open and displayed in plain sight, and customers often unknowingly damage the towels when they open them and then decide they don't want them anymore. Every time they would replace them by twirling the towel into a heap and stuffing it into the shelf, often snagging the fabric. We had horrible metal shelves that corporate refused to replace. I'm sorting through the crumpled towels, attempting to carefully extract them from the jaws of mischief when a new employee approaches me. Annie, sorry, could you help me, please? Me, hey, yeah, what's up? Annie, well, there's a guy who needs some help, but I'm not sure how to help him. I think he's Chinese, but I can't understand what he wants. Me, okay, sure, where is he? She points towards vacuums, giggles uncomfortably, and then walks away. I'm a little confused that she just booked it, but she's new and doesn't really understand how to hand off customers yet. I leave my department and see a little old Asian guy wandering near the vacuum aisle. I casually walk up to him. Me, sir, can I help you? Oh my. I almost step back as Sir starts waving his hands around like a lunatic. It was a little overwhelming. He's spinning his arms around and reaching out towards me and twisting his hands around in a lewd manner. He even mimicked spraying something on his face. I now understand why Annie got intimidated. If his face hadn't been so pained and humiliated, I would have thought he was just being rude. He continued to make these motions while I looked at him, attempting to understand what was going on. He pointed at his shopping cart towards the shelves and then started the motions again. That's when it clicked. I was in a real-life game of charades. Once I figured this out, I began to focus on what he was doing. I also looked at his cart, saw a sun hat and sunblock, and realized what it was. He wanted a personal fan that sprays water on your face. I motioned for him to come with me and led him to the back of the store where an end cap had a display of plastic fan bottles. The look of happiness and relief on his face was like sunshine. His excitement was almost tangible as he picked out a couple and then began to mime out another item. I spent 15 more minutes helping him find the items he was unable to locate, all through his movements and gestures. I'll never forget him describing hot sauce. I hadn't had that much fun with a customer until that point, or since. He was absolutely delightful. He eventually became a regular at the store. He began to call me Gene. It starts with a J, so close enough. I also began to carry a pad of paper and a pencil in order to help us out sometimes. A friend of mine taught me some basic formal Chinese for when I was confused. Just simple stuff like, how many? I don't understand. Please draw it. My last year working there, Sir brought in his son to the store and brought him to my department. Sir's son was just as cheery as his father. He thanked me for being such a help to his father and apologized for any time it took me away from my job. I was absolutely touched that he'd mentioned me to his family. Sir was well known and well liked in the store by the time I'd left, and I was certain that he'd have a charades partner for as long as he wanted. He actually spoke perfect English, but he loved charades and couldn't find any friends to play with. And our second story. That's not me. Really, video shows otherwise. This happened almost 10 years ago. I was probably 19 years old. I was home alone when my neighbor rang my doorbell to tell me someone had hit my parked car. My neighbor and I went out to inspect my car, and there were some light scratches and the paint was messed up. My concerned neighbor told me that the other driver should pay to fix it, and if there was any trouble, I should call the police and she'd be a witness. She told me she heard a loud noise outside, came out and saw a man in a blue SUV pull away and move the car further down the street in front of another house. I thanked her and went back inside to see if anything was caught on the security cameras we have. The camera points at our driveway and into the street. Mom parks in the driveway, so I always parallel park my car right in front of our house. Sure enough, when I replay the last 30 minutes, a blue SUV pulls up behind my car, tries to parallel park, and hits my car in the process. He definitely realized he hit something because he comes out the car, looks, gets back in, and then drives past my car down the street out of frame. This was a big, tall man wearing a bright orange polo, very easily identifiable. I honestly didn't mind the scratches. To me, it was minor. If he had came to tell me about the accident instead of my neighbor, I probably would have been okay if he just apologized. My neighbor is very small, and I knew most of my neighbors. I'd not recognized this man. I walked outside to where I saw the blue SUV, now parked in front of the house with a recently sold sign. Surely it wasn't. I walked up and rang the doorbell. He answered in his annoyingly bright orange polo and tidy whities. Now in hindsight, everything makes sense, but I was young, scared, and trying to hype myself up for the confrontation already, and this was just creepy and weird to me. Why would you think it's okay to answer the door like that? I asked if he was the owner of the blue SUV outside. Which one? That one, the only blue SUV outside. I explained to him about what my neighbor told me and security camera footage. He says, hold on, puts on his pants and tells me to show him the footage, so we walk towards my house. Again, I was very scared and nervous. Even if he was a new neighbor, I wasn't sure about inviting him inside the house and what his reaction would be, so I decided to record on my phone our interaction from him first entering my home. I replayed the footage on our security monitor of his car hitting mine, him getting out with the same shirt. At the end where he's driving away, we also see and notice a Star Wars sticker on the back of the SUV that matches what I saw on his actual car too. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He gets angry and says, "That's not me." This was honestly not the response I was expecting at all. I laughed nervously, like, "What do you mean?" I say, "Your shirt is the same. That could be anyone. It's your car, your sticker. You can't really see. But your shirt color when you get out. You can't prove that's me." Okay, so he just grumbles away, heads out my door and back to his house. At this point, I'm pretty mad too. Again, if he was apologetic, even if he'd given me a sob story excuse how he's having a rough time, made a bad decision, whatever, I would have just been like, "Don't worry about it, it's just scratches, it's an older car anyway." But you, 1, hit and run, 2, deny and lie when confronted. With all the evidence? Like, no. So I listened to what my neighbor said earlier, call the police if there's trouble. You want to be a weirdo? Now I'll be petty and make this bigger than it needs to be. Police are now here talking to me and my neighbor who heard and saw him. I explained I confronted him, showed him the footage and his denial. I showed the police the security footage as well as the confrontation recorded on my phone, where a big guy in an orange shirt is pointing to another man in an orange shirt, yelling, "That's not me." The police also found this pretty amusing. I talked to the police, and while my concerned neighbor was being fussy, like, "Doesn't she need to get that repainted?" The cop was like, "These damages are so minor, not really, but I could call insurance to figure out the damage cost. He'd pay if I wanted it repaired." I said no, LOL, because it wasn't really significant. Last I saw was him talking with the police in front of his house. Later in the day, my concerned, nosy, LOL, neighbor comes back to tell me he was arrested. She saw him, of course, getting put into handcuffs and put in the back of the police car. Later that week, I was visited by a detective from the police department. He wanted to go over my statements again, as well as emailing him the video footage I had. He explained to me that he was arrested for DUI. Like I said, everything made sense then. Why did he park in front of my house first, then move his car near his house? I have no idea. I just thought he was a weirdo, but answering the door in his underwear, his glazed eyes, illogical gibberish, arguing, repeating, "That's not me," definitely drunk. I hadn't been around people who really drank like that, so I didn't know. He smelled, but I just thought it was BO. Definitely not a good impression, since the whole neighborhood was now talking about our new neighbor's drama, courtesy of Nosy Neighbor. They moved out about a year later. The only time having a nosy neighbor is useful is when a new neighbor moves in. I'm happy to read a story where a drunken fool who drove around impaired ends up arrested. I like to imagine the cops walked him out in his tighty-whities too. And our last story, how I won my pool from Karen. I just had to share this epic moment. My name's John, and I have a house with a pool and a trampoline in the backyard, which was supposed to be a place for relaxation and fun. But not with my neighbors around. My neighbor Karen is a classic Karen in every sense. She thinks everything around belongs to her, including my pool. At first I tried to be polite, but it turned out to be useless. One day I came home from work and noticed that someone had used my pool. There was water everywhere, pool toys were scattered around, there were shoe prints on the trampoline. I knew it was Karen and her family, as they constantly complained that the playground was just sitting there doing nothing. I decided to talk to her to resolve the issue peacefully. "Hey Karen, I don't know how this happened, but it looks like someone used my pool today," I started. Karen immediately started yelling, "Your pool? This is common property, and my kids have the right to relax wherever they want." Actually, this is my property? If you want the kids to play in a pool, there are public pools 2 blocks away, I suggested with a smile. "You can't tell me what to do," she shouted and slammed the door. A few days later, I decided to install a lock on the gate that led to my yard. I thought this would solve the problem, but how wrong I was. A week later, I came home, and what did I see? Karen had thrown a party at my pool with a bunch of guests. Music blaring, people on the trampoline, and kids splashing in my pool like a swarm of piranhas. I walked up to her. "Karen, what the hell are you doing here?" She, without batting an eye, replied, "It's none of your business. You can't be so stingy. This pool is just sitting here, and we decided to use it. It shouldn't go to waste." "This is my pool on my land, and you're here illegally. Get out before I call the police," I warned. "Ooh, he's threatening us," she started shrieking. "Everyone heard? This psycho's threatening me." Everyone started leaving, and I locked the gate with 2 locks. A few days later, I got a visit from the police. It turns out Karen had filed a complaint against me for assaulting her son. She claimed that I had beaten him when I kicked him out of the party. The police, of course, were polite, but reminded me that such accusations could lead to big problems. I asked them to wait a moment and called my neighbor who lived next to us and sometimes helped me watch over the house when I wasn't home. "Hey Mike, are those surveillance cameras you have that capture part of my yard still working?" I asked. "Of course, John. You mean you finally caught Karen in the act?" He laughed. "Exactly. The police are here right now, and I want to prove that I didn't touch anyone," I explained. Mike quickly sent me the footage, and it clearly showed Karen and her son breaking the lock and entering the property. There was no assault at all, just my voice calmly telling them to leave. The police watched the footage and apologized for the inconvenience, but warned Karen that she could find herself under investigation for making false accusations. This was just the first warning. Karen barely had time to recover from her failed plan when she received a court notice. Apparently, the police decided to dig into her past and discovered that she was on probation for a fight at Walmart a couple of years ago. Breaking my lock and trespassing on private property violated the terms of her probation, and she was arrested. The funniest part is that she often bragged about being a winner in any situation. Well, not this time. Now Karen doesn't bother me anymore. She still lives next door, but she looks at me with such hatred that I'm sure if looks could kill, I'd be long dead. But she hasn't dared to come near my fence again. The moral of the story is simple. If you have a Karen as a neighbor, just install cameras and wait for her to ruin herself. And keep your gate double locked, friends. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.